All right, so we are going to say that we're started because it's 10:01. How are you guys today? Good. All right, so we got a great, and I'm good. All right, so three people, three people class. That's all right. We'll make it work. All right, so we have talked about essays in a couple different ways so far. We talked about um, kind of the types of essays that there are, and then we delved a little more deeply into exactly what kind of essays we'll be writing here at our school and how those are different from other forms. So we're specifically talking about persuasive essays in the writing course here at our high school. And then we talked about the structure of those essays. How should it be laid out? What are the things that must be included? So hopefully you guys feel comfortable with that. Um, I think both of you have turned in almost all of the assignments. Yeah. So everything has looked good so far for the two of you. For some other people, I'm missing some assignments here and there. So I can't really see whether or not they're understanding everything all the way. But you guys look like you've got a pretty good handle on it. So that's good. So unless you guys have questions, we'll go ahead and get started for today. There we go. Got one more person here. Do this. There we go. Now three people in my place. So, first thing we need to talk about today is this idea of pre-writing. So we've talked about the structure. We're going to talk a little bit more about format, but in general, we understand the parts. Now we just need to actually start putting our ideas down onto either paper or onto the screen, whatever you want to do. So let's get into that. So we will do this. Present screen. And again, if you guys have questions, if it's not showing up clearly, if you can't hear me, please, by all means, please speak up and let me know. We'll make it work. But if not, I don't always know that you guys can't hear me or can't see something. So if you took the quiz, which two of you did, one of you still needs to take it. You saw pre-writing, at least for us and for most teachers in general, almost everyone will agree that pre-writing is the most important step in writing your essay. If you don't plan it, if you just try to write it all in one go, and especially if you don't edit it afterwards, your essay is probably not going to be very organized. It's not going to be as strong as it could be. So if it's an informative essay, it won't be as informative because you're uh, your evidence and your facts are going to be kind of wandering. They're not going to be in a logical, ordered manner. And the same thing for a persuasive essay. It's not going to be very persuasive because your arguments are not well put together. So they're going to kind of wander a little bit. You might be on topic and then off topic, back in. It might not be ordered in the right way. So any time that you take to kind of organize your thoughts and figure out what it is that you want to say first, um, it's always going to be better. And that really starts again with pre-writing. Editing is important, but pre-writing is going to make your life so much easier and your essays so much better. So what is pre-writing, right? So we have that prefix, the word pre, which means before. So the pre-writing stage is an important part that unfortunately a lot of people skip. Um, and like I said, you must follow the pre-writing stage. And this is where you think of or think up and prepare your ideas before you write. Okay, so this is just the thinking stage. So we're not writing an essay yet. We're just planning it. What is it that I want to say? How do I want to say it? Um, and not just for you, but for any type of writing in any language. It is much easier to write if you have made some sort of web or brainstorming or an outline, anything that organizes your ideas and your thoughts. You can put them on flashcards. You could write it on your desk in marker and then erase it later. But anything that kind of puts your ideas down so you can see them, move them around before you start writing. So that is anything that counts as pre-writing. So it's anything before you actually start officially writing the essay. And there are going to be 6 steps, and some of them are kind of blend together. But we can kind of see 6 steps to pre-writing. So the first one is just thinking. Okay, so taking the time to actually just shut everything else out, no distractions, and just think carefully. What is it that you want to say? What is the idea? How am I going to answer the prompt for this essay? And then the second thing is to actually, either open up your notebook or if you're using your tablet or your laptop, open up something that's a blank canvas so that you can just put down ideas. And so the third step is going to be to collect facts or statistics or, things that are going to support your arguments. Um, and I'll make it very clear later that this isn't necessarily as important for a persuasive essay as it is for an informative essay to have lots of facts, but you will want some facts, obviously. Step 4 is to brainstorm your actual ideas. So start to kind of move them around a little bit or organize them in different ways and kind of figure out how will your argument take shape. Step 5 is to decide on the actual main idea of your essay and each paragraph. So actually start to kind of put out the framework for your essay. And then step 6 is to organize the facts and ideas that you kind of collected for number 3 in a way that will allow you to support this main idea that you've chosen for your essay. So again, some of them lean on each other. You can't do 6 until you do 5. But there are stages or steps. There's 6 clear steps that you need to do if you want to effectively do the pre-writing kind of portion of your essay. So everybody feel okay with that so far? Yes? No? Maybe?
Yes.
Okay, good. At least somebody's alive. All right. So for step one in the pre-writing, we want to think carefully. And so before we start writing anything down, we want to start asking questions like, what question am I trying to answer? How can I best answer this question? Um, what is going to be the most important part? Um, do I have enough information that I can make a thesis statement from this important part? Um, and then what facts or ideas or interesting things can I use to support my thesis? And so some of these are going to be kind of what we would call a deal breaker, right? So when you get up into number three and number four here, what is the most important part of my answer? If it is an essay like we talked about earlier about what animals make the best kind of pet, if you don't know enough about certain animals, or if you don't have enough information, then you won't be able to go any further, right? Or if you realize, like, wow, I really don't care about any animals, you might not want to write that essay if you have a choice. So if it was that essay or pick whether or not video games are healthy for you, you might figure out, wow, I really care about health in the video games. I don't care about pets and animals, so I'm not going to write this one. Um, so make sure that you have, some ideas. And if you don't have ideas, that's where you come down to this last one here. So, what ideas do I have? Well, I have one or two ideas about animals, but I really don't have any facts about them. So what can you do? Well, I can look up more facts. I can find out more information about cats, maybe, or dogs, or birds. Anything that you think is going to be the best animal to make a pet. But you kind of have to just judge or weigh, how much you know now and how much are you going to have to research to answer the question. Um, and so again, we're doing all of this without writing almost anything down. We're just thinking about it. Just okay, I see the two topics. Which one do I think I want to write about? Which one do I know more about already? Um, which one do I immediately have an opinion about that I'll be able to defend? So you kind of have to make those choices, especially if it's an assignment where, like the essay contest, there are two choices that you can write about. So you want to plan out in your head first for a few minutes which one of these is going to be the easiest for me or going to have the best argument. And so that's step one. Okay, we haven't even begun writing yet. We're just thinking, right? Can we answer some of these questions? And so then, like I said, it doesn't have to be a notebook or paper. It could be on your tablet. It could be on your laptop. But we want to be clear here. We're not starting off our essay, right? So we just want to start writing out the answers to the questions in step one. So do I have an opinion about this? What things do I already know? What things will I need to look up? Um, can I put together a very loose thesis statement about this topic already? And you're just writing them in note form. You're not writing out full sentences. You're definitely not writing out paragraphs. Um, and like I said, you can do this at the same time as step one, as you're thinking. If you're just jotting down ideas so you don't forget them, that's okay. But don't get hung up on structure. It doesn't have to be full sentences. They don't have to be paragraphs. We're just putting our ideas down somewhere. Uh, and the only reason that we're writing them is so that we don't forget them. Because that is a major pitfall or a major problem that writers can run into, is that even in your first language, you can only write so fast. Your brain and its inner monologue. So as you're thinking, as you're talking to yourself, and you're reading your essay to yourself as you're beginning to write it, it in your brain happens so quickly and moves so much faster that sometimes we can't get it down on paper quick enough. We're still writing down the first sentence. In our head, we're thinking about the third sentence. We're so much further ahead, and you forget the ideas that kind of go in between if you keep doing that for too long. So we definitely don't want to do that. We definitely want to, jot down notes, little reminders, anything that's going to help writing become easier later for us, right? We don't want to forget our ideas. We want all of those ideas to somehow make it into our essay, or at least be there for us to see, and then later on we can decide whether we want to use them or not. But we definitely don't want to forget them and lose them, right? So that's how you remember um, the how and why of what you're going to write about, right? And so you can do like a web like this. Um, if you want it to be that structured, it doesn't have to be. We'll go over that later. This would be a mind map, which is an example of a different kind of planning for the beginning here. Oop, hold on. There we go. Got one more. Four people. So step three, or six steps, is to collect facts. So you've answered some of those questions. Now we need to figure out what is the information that you're actually going to be presenting uh, to the reader. Um, and again, we're not writing out full sentences, but we're just jotting down ideas. So if we decided that we're going to choose cats as the best pets, then we want to start writing down things. So you just jot down the idea that they're adorable, they're cute, they're cuddly, they're clean, they're small, they don't take up much space. Just little things. Um, and so you're not writing down full sentences, you're not writing a paragraph yet, but you are making sure that all of the ideas, all of the facts that you have um, are directly related. Okay, so you want to make sure that if you get 5 or so minutes into this process and you realize that you just don't have a lot of things that are related to the specific question, that means that it's not going to be very persuasive. So if you realize, well, I know a lot about cats, but not a lot about why cats should be pets, I just know random facts, you might need to do a little more research. You might have to go collect some more facts. Um, but we also, if you write down, well, I need to look up how long do pets live? How much do pets eat in a month? How much water do they consume? If that's not important to your arguments or the questions that you're answering, then you're going to waste an awful lot of time trying to find this information. And that's extremely important, especially for essays where you have a time limit. If you have 2 weeks to write this essay at home, okay, it's your time. But you guys don't go home at the end of the day. You're in the dorm. You have time where you're sitting in the classroom after dinner doing study hall, and you have other classes that you have homework for or classes you need to do assignments for. So you don't have time to be doing a lot of research, and you definitely don't want to waste your time doing extra research that isn't going to be helping you in any way. And the big thing I want to put here, I put it in all caps. Um, Facts are not that important in persuasive essays. Um, I don't know how to say that in a different way. So instead, I will tell you a story. There were a lot. of second grade students last year in the first semester that found out that we were going to be doing writing. They found out that their persuasive essay was going to be um, on any of a number of topics. I think we gave them 10 different topics they could write about. But they didn't listen to the instructions that Bella and I gave them. And that was, please make sure, above all, you focus on your thesis statement, which must be an opinion, and then you have some arguments that support that that thesis or that opinion. And yes, you want some of that to be factual. You don't want it to be all opinion, but we told them like quite clearly, and it was actually in the instructions, that do not just write facts. If you just write facts without the explanation, not only is that not a good essay, but they would lose points because we didn't just want facts. We want them to explain. We want you to explain why that fact is important. How does that fact support your opinion? You know, it's not a good thing to just say cats make good pets because they're clean. You know, cats bathe themselves 13 times a day. Okay, but what does that matter? Like, why are you writing that? Is it that because you think that it's cool that cats bathe themselves 13 times a day? Is that high? Is that low? Do they really get clean? Like you have to explain what that means. It's a good start, but you have to have the explanation. And there were, you know, maybe 20 or so students that absolutely ignored what we said in the instructions, put way more than the maximum number of facts that we told them they could have in a paragraph, and then wanted to argue about their grade at the very end because they thought that they deserved a higher grade because they had all these wonderful facts. And, you know, they had no argument because we could show them clearly in the instructions. It says you can only have 2 facts per body paragraph. You know, you have to have the rest of your sentences be explanations. And the biggest complaint because of that was that, teacher, that's hard. Well, yeah, it is hard. Sorry. You know, I'm not doing this to torture you. I'm not asking you to do anything that you're not capable of, but it does require extra work. You do have to explain, you know, the facts and how they support your opinion. That's what makes something a persuasive essay. If I just wanted you to give facts, I wouldn't assign you a persuasive essay. I would give you an informative essay prompt and ask you to tell me all about facts, but that's not what this is. It's a persuasive essay. So just keep in mind that this is an important step because these are going to be the things that are going to help support your opinion and your arguments, but they're not the most important part. The most important part is what happens after that. You give the fact, and then you explain how or why, and that is where the real, you know, kind of essay comes through. So the most important is your opinion, and the facts are only useful if they explain and defend your opinion. And so the next step in our pre-writing is going to be brainstorming, right? And so once you kind of think about those couple facts that you want to talk about. Oh, I'm sorry. You guys waited till now to tell me? Here we go. So I'll leave that up for a second. So that was where we were talking about collect facts. I'm so sorry. So again, we want to look for and write down the facts that will help us answer our question. We want to make sure that they are related to the specific question we're answering. We don't want to waste time gathering extra or useless information. We want to remember that the facts are not the important part. It's the explanation of how and why they defend your opinion. Is everybody good with number 3? Can I move on?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So brainstorming, we are thinking again about what else we want to say about the topic. We have our facts, and now what are we going to do to explain it, or how are we going to explain it? What other details can we put in? And this is where the creative side comes out. Think of reasons why people should care, right? Why should they be interested? Why should they want to read your essay? Um, and also think of, why is this important? How can you convince a reader that if they had to pick any of a number of essays, so everyone in the class turns in an essay, why should they read yours? If you had to tell them, oh, because mine has, and then give them 2 or 3 like examples of how yours is going to be important. It has the most information. It's the funniest. It's the saddest. It's the one that's going to make you think the most. You'll be the angriest after you read it because your topic is really controversial, and it'll make people want to go and do something. Any of those things can be reasons why they would be interested or why your topic is important. And this is where you want to kind of think about that. You don't want to wait until you're almost done and then go, oh, this is kind of boring. I need a fun sentence to add in. You want to plan for it at the beginning. And because of that, and I can't stress this enough, you want to write down every idea that comes to your mind. Okay? Every single one. Just jot it down. Write it down somewhere, even just the little bit of it, because even if it's the dumbest thing you've ever heard or thought of, it might help you later to think of something that is better, or it'll help you keep on track. When you look at it later, you're like, why did I want to talk about that? That's way off topic. Maybe it's really funny and you just haven't thought of the way to bring it in yet. Maybe you want to put it in the first paragraph and you're like, no, it just doesn't fit. And then you realize, you know what? I can put that in the third paragraph if I change it to this instead. Okay, so it's way better to waste a couple seconds writing down an idea and then not using it because you don't like it or you think it's stupid than to forget something that is a really good idea uh, because you're writing, you're doing everything else, and then after you turn in your essay, go, oh, I had that idea. Why didn't I write about that? And it's because you forgot because you had 9 other things going on at the same time. So always, always, always write down every idea you have. You can always not include it, but if you forget it, or if you don't take the time to actually develop the idea, then you might miss out. And so then, once you've written everything down, you go through you choose the best ones. You kind of organize. You go, okay, this one that can go in the first paragraph. This one will go over here in the second. That one I can put in the first. All three of these will go in the last paragraph. So it definitely helps to brainstorm. And again, this sort of mapping, this kind of web or mind map can be a good idea because you can just kind of go, okay, this is my first idea, and these are the little branches that come off. This is my second one. And so as it goes, if you realize like this one, it doesn't really go with the first idea, you know, you can kind of just draw a line to the second idea instead. So it doesn't have to be pretty. Um, and no one is certainly ever going to judge you based on any of your pre-writing um, kind of organization. It's not for anyone else, it's just for you. If we ever grade you on the pre-planning or pre-writing portion, it's only a completion grade. It's did you do the outline? Did you turn it in? Or did you do some sort of brainstorming, webbing, mind map, outline, something? But certainly not, you know, does it look like an outline? Did you have enough things? It's really just, did you do it? Um, so, yeah, so once we have all of our ideas down, we've kind of organized them a little bit in this brainstorming phase. The next thing we want to do is we want to decide on our main ideas. And so the first thing you want to do is you want to choose the most important point that you've thought of, right? So what is the most important one? And so if there are a few, then choose one. And this is where you're finally making a decision that matters. You have to pick one, and that's it. That is the main idea, right? So don't change your topic partway through. If you chose cats because cats are the coolest animal to you, don't try to change and be like, but dogs are also cool. Like it's not going to happen, right? Pick one, stick to it. Okay. That's it. So, main ideas, once you've organized your ideas, whichever one has the most evidence, whichever one you can argue the best, go with that one. Don't look back, right? No regrets. And of course, once you have your main idea, then you can organize, right? So think of the best way that you're going to present this topic, okay, this main idea to the reader, right? So look at the ideas you have, look at the facts that you already knew or you know you want to look up. So you don't know how long cats live, but you want to look it up. Take all of those ideas, look at everything. Which ones are going to be the ones that best support your topic? You know, can you group them into categories? So these are all about cats and how clean they are. This one is all about, you know, what they eat and how little you have to do to take care of them. And this one over here is about how good they are as friends. You know, you kind of move things around, um, and you'll also decide what order that you want to talk about them in. How will you present them, and in what order will you present them? And this is when you finally make an outline, right? So you actually start to formally write out, okay, this will be part one, and then this will be number two, and this will be number three as you go down. So before we just had our ideas down on paper, we were drawing lines, we're circling things, we're erasing. Here we actually want to have, you know, the outline or the map of what we want to do. And so here's what an outline could look like, right? So first thing, with our introduction or introductory statement, we could also call that the hook. You know, that's an interesting way to start your essay. For your thesis statement, you want that to be the main idea, that opinion that your entire essay is going to be supporting. Right? And then we have our body paragraphs, 1, 2, and 3. And these will be the strong arguments that are facts and ideas that you gathered that support your thesis statement. And then these little number 1, 2, 3s right here are going to be supporting each one of those facts or arguments, right? And then finally, we come down here. You have a strong, interesting statement to wrap up your essay, which would be that call to action, which is actually going to go at the end. But we have it up here, because what is the idea that you're trying to get to at the very end? And then, of course, you're also going to need to reword your thesis statement, which means to say that main idea or that opinion in a slightly different way, because you don't want to bore the reader. So, again, 1, 2 for body with A, B, C, so 1, 2, 3 paragraphs, and then 3 down here for the conclusion. But again, we're still not looking for long paragraphs, right? We're leaving maybe a sentence, couple words here for each one of them. We're not looking for a full essay when we're doing the outline. Okay, we're just trying to organize our ideas. And the main reason why we're doing it this way is because we can start to see, my first supporting idea is this, and I have 1, 2, 3 arguments as examples. And then 2, I have 1, 2, maybe I'll come up with a third later, and then you get down to 3 and you realize I only have 1 example. If that's true, then you need to take some time and develop this third supporting idea. You really need to have a strong kind of support for all 3 of your essay, or for all 3 of your paragraphs. You don't want to have one that's super strong and 2 that are kind of way weaker. Right? So, all right. So, how do we feel? Those are the 6 steps to pre-writing, right? And 6 steps, they were: think carefully, actually open up your notebook and start writing things down, answering the questions from number 1. We start to collect facts and ideas. Then we start to brainstorm. We decide on the main idea. And then finally, we start organizing in an actual outline. So, yeah. I won't say feel. Does everyone understand the 6 steps of pre-writing?
Yes.
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 Good. All right. Because you're going to have to do it later. So I want to make sure you guys feel okay with it. All right. So then the other part that we have to look at today, that kind of goes along with pre-writing, just because I want you to be thinking about it at the same time. Is this idea of organization and formatting. And so, as you can see here, we have a very short, kind of example. Oh, go back. There we go. So we have an example here. So, the student, if they were real, the name would be David Livingstone. Here's the class. It's for geology. The professor, and then the date. But as you can see here, we have a title at the very, very top. And then we have, paragraphs as we go down. And the first thing that's important, we see that indent right there. You're kind of like it says here, begin your essay here. This is your introduction containing your thesis statement and the brief mention of major points to follow in the body. We won't worry about double spacing yet. And so when we get to the next paragraph, we see each paragraph is indented, as you can see here, and then right here. And they even give you the hint or the ruling here. You can either use the space bar 5 times to indent this over, so hit space 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or like I showed you before, you can hit the tab key, which is over here right next to the 1. It's all the way on the far left. See where it says tab, T-A-B. That one will just move it over for you. But the rest of this here is more about kind of formatting, how you set the margins. So you have that clean white space around all the sides because you don't want a wall of text. It gives you a font and a size. And then it tells you about putting, headers and everything else, which isn't as important right now. But we do need to remember to indent each paragraph and to, of course, put a title at the top. So you should feel okay with the structure, like we talked about at the beginning of class. I think everyone understands, the introduction comes first, then you have your body paragraphs, and then the conclusion. And I think you understand the parts that each one needs. But let's go back and look at something important, and that is our thesis statements. Our thesis statements are opinions. They are the main topic or the main idea of the essay, and we want them to be strong, right? So our thesis statement is effectively going to be a map for our essay. Um, you know, when the reader starts reading um, your essay, the first thing they see is the hook, and they're going to love your hook. They're going to be super excited. They're going to be like, "Wow, I've never thought of that question before," or um, I've never thought of that fact before. That's surprising. I never would have believed that. Wow, that's an interesting quote. It really has me thinking. Um, but they're hooked, and so then you give them a few facts. So you let them know like things that give background information. So if it was about K-pop groups, that's did you know that the K-pop industry is now the largest entertainment industry in the world. There's your hook. And then you go for your background information. You talk about, you know, some of the most popular groups around the world in K-pop include Twice and BTS and Blackpink. They are from so and so label. Um, each of them has been around for several years and has won certain awards. So you give a couple facts just so that people know who it is you're talking about, and then you get to your thesis statement. You know, um, because of the rise of K-pop internationally, this has led to the spread of Korean culture around the world, and this is important because of A, B, and C. Period. So after your thesis statement, the reader should be able to see where the paper is going. Right? It's a map. They can see, oh, you're going to talk about A, and then you're going to talk about B, and then you're going to talk about C, and that's all going to help me understand, if I didn't already understand, that K-pop and its popularity around the world has spread A, B, and C examples of Korean culture around the world. So the reader should definitely be able to understand where the paper is going. They don't know all the arguments. They don't know all the facts. Um, that will be what your body paragraphs are there to do. Um, but they should be able to know from the thesis statement at the very end of your introduction what's going to happen in the rest of the paper. There shouldn't be any crazy surprises, um, if that makes sense. So you definitely want to give the reader all of the ideas up front. Okay, you definitely want it to be clear, and it's also going to help you. So by having a clear thesis statement and having a clear path, we're going to go to 1, then we're going to go to 2, and then we're going to go to 3. It helps keep you organized, right? You've already said, this is where the paper is going, and so you can't wander. If your paper is about cats, dogs, and birds, you can't suddenly start talking about snakes. It's not important. Don't put it in there. Don't distract from the main idea of your essay, because it's just going to take away from your argument. If you're trying to be persuasive, then you want to convince the reader of something. Don't give them any other ideas, right? All right, real quick check. Everybody look outside. Is it snowing for you, or is it just me? It just started snowing here. Oh, not yet, not yet. It's not a lot of snow. I can see it out the window. Sitting here in class 1-5. I can see out the window. There's snow falling. So cool. You guys have to remember, I'm from Florida. It doesn't snow in Florida ever. So I still am excited by snow. All right, so thesis statements, we want them to be clear. We want the reader to know where we're going. I don't want any weird surprises. So be clear. And so that's where, again, like we talked about with our outlines, we have to organize our thoughts, okay? We want to put them together in a clear order. And as we just talked about in the other PPT, this is definitely a pre-writing step, but you can always reorganize anytime. But the major thing to take away from this is that the order that you write the ideas in your thesis statement, it's not just should, that's a bad word, must be the same order that the body paragraphs talk about them, okay? So if you say, coffee's good because it's hot, it's tasty, and it wakes you up, the first paragraph has to be about it being hot. Has to be. You can't choose to, oh, no, I'm going to talk about how it wakes you up. If you want to talk about how it wakes you up first, then you have to rewrite the thesis statement so that it addresses it wakes you up. Then it talks about how you like it because it's hot, and then, because it tastes good. The order is important. Okay, it's one of the few things that you have to do, like structure-wise, that can make or break your essay. So you have to keep the same order. Whatever order you're going to talk about them in and present them in the body paragraphs, that's the order they have to be in your thesis statement. It's one of the only things we can't wiggle on. It has to be the same order. Speaking of that, my coffee is cold now. And so I know we talked about the burger. Now I'm gonna all of my lessons have food in them. So with your arguments, in a perfect world, uh, your arguments would all be equally strong. Okay, so you have your thesis statement, and you have 3 arguments to back up your opinion, and they're all going to be equally strong. They all have 10 sentences each. They all have 3 facts. They're all perfectly weighted. They're exactly the same. They're all strong. That would be perfect. That would be the easiest, and just give you a 100 to move on. But that's not how it is, right? And so we need to think of it like a tripod, which would be like this, right? So the thing that we put a camera on to kind of keep it level. If our arguments were all equal, then it would be like a tripod that was upright. We'd have 3 equal length legs to make it stand upright. Everything would be balanced. We wouldn't have to worry. But unfortunately, it's not always like that, right? A lot of times we have one really strong argument, and then we either have another argument that's kind of strong, uh, and then we have one that's really, it needs a lot of help. Or sometimes we only have one argument that's really strong at all, and then 2 that are really weak. Uh, the one we really have to worry about is when we have one argument, and then our second argument and our third argument are really kind of part of the same thing. So we'd really just have 2 arguments. So you don't want to have one argument that's strong and 2 that are just like 2 halves of the same thing, right? So if it was the one about cats, they're easy to take care of. That's great. We have lots of examples for that. And then your other 2 body paragraphs are cats are cute and cats are adorable. Those words are pretty much the same thing, and you're not going to have a lot of difference in the evidence that you're going to provide for both of them. So you probably need to combine those into just one argument and then kind of look at your ideas. Can you get away with just having 2 supporting arguments instead of 3 and just have a 4-paragraph essay instead of a 5? Is there another argument you can think of besides them being cute and adorable and them being easy to take care of? But in general, if we have imbalanced arguments, so ones that are not equal length or equal weight, they're not equally strong, then we need to do what we call the sandwich. Okay. In the sandwich, if one of our arguments is weaker than the other 2, if we have 2 that are stronger or strong just in general, we want to try to hide that weak paragraph. Okay. And that's not a bad thing. That every writer is going to know that they're doing this. Every teacher is expecting it. So it's not sneaky, and it's not a bad thing. Okay. It's just, this is the way that you get the reader to still agree with you, and to still be as persuasive as possible. So we're going to put that weaker or not as strong argument in the middle paragraph. Okay. So if we were going to rank them strong, middle, and weak, the first body paragraph is going to be our middle argument, okay, or the almost strong argument. Our second body paragraph is going to be our weakest argument. And then our third body paragraph is going to be the strongest argument. Why do you think that we're going to put the strongest argument in the third body paragraph? Yeah, absolutely. So we want to emphasize it. Yeah, we want to draw attention to our strongest argument. We want it to be uh, the last thing, or the thing that sticks out to them the most when they move to the conclusion, which is going to be, where we restate the thesis statement. So we're going to remind them, these are the arguments we had, and they're going to go, oh yeah, you talked about 1, you talked about 2, and oh man, I remember 3 because I just read it. That was definitely a strong argument. So it's going to be it's almost a psychological thing, right? You're using the brain, and the way it remembers things to make your argument or your opinion seem stronger, right? So again, middle argument first, or one, if they're both strong, then you can just pick one. But you want your best argument, your strongest one to be the last one, and you definitely want the weakest one to be kind of hidden in the middle somewhere. And why? Um, you always want to try to make a weak argument stronger. You don't want to just leave it weak. If you can add more details, if you can find a way to edit it, then always make it stronger. But if there's one that stands out being the weakest, that's the one you put in the middle. And so you're going to, the idea, like we just said, you're starting with a pretty strong argument, and then you're finishing really strong with the last body paragraph, because that's what the reader is going to remember the most during the conclusion. So, when you're trying to summarize, when you're trying to wrap up your ideas, and you want them to, be thinking, wow, how could I think of anything different? Is there anything else that I could say that would argue against what the writer said in this essay? You don't want to give them any room to argue. You want them to see that last argument, that strong argument, and be like, no, that's it. Yeah, they've changed my mind. Um, Again, sandwich method, we just want to put that weakest argument, if we have one, in the middle body paragraph. So you have a stronger argument here, the weaker one in the middle, and then the strongest one. Your best argument definitely goes down in the bottom, that last body paragraph. And again, if this is the order, then your thesis statement needs to be the same order, right? So thesis statement, same order as the body paragraphs that were about them. All right, so we have talked about the pre-writing process here. We talked about organization and formatting. And so for class this week, for class today, your assignment today is going to be to actually start working on a persuasive essay outline. And then for Monday, or not for Monday, why does it say Monday? It should be for Wednesday. For Wednesday, what we're actually going to be looking at is going to be editing once we actually start writing, and then also getting into the use of persuasive language and transitions, and how those can enhance your writing, make your arguments stronger, um, make your um, movement between ideas clearer and more effective. And so we'd be doing both of those on Wednesday, and then doing a bit more writing. So, but we've covered pre-writing. We talked about those 6 steps. We talked about the organization, so you can start to plan out, keep in mind the order that you want to do things. So what we have left for today is just actually doing the actual outline itself. So this will open up in about 15 minutes, but I can go ahead and post it now. But what you're going to be doing, like it says here, complete the following outline for the persuasive essay on the city of your choice. I know one person chose Andong and one person chose Songju. So other 2 students need to choose cities. But if you open it up, it's going to open up a Google Doc. And so you'll put in, the topic I have selected is, so what you want to do is you'll want to make a copy first and foremost of this. That way it is yours, because if not, then you're going to be changing it on other people, and we don't want that. So make a copy and then start filling it in. So you'll put in the city here. So for instance, if it was, you think that I should go to Gyeongju, you'd write, you should visit, and then type in Gyeongju right there. And then the rest of it, you're just filling in, so again, we don't need full sentences, but we do want to have down ideas. So what is it that you would tell me? So maybe it's a statistic about why Youngju is important, or um, something that's, how long have people lived there? How many people live there? Um, it used to be the capital of something. Could be anything. What is your hook? What is your way to convince me I should actually keep reading this past the first sentence? And the same thing here for background information. You don't have to give full sentences. I don't want you to write a paragraph yet, but just talk. What are you going to mention? So maybe you'll mention the fact that um, it used to be the capital of one of the kingdoms. Today, it's the fourth largest city, and something else about it. And then go ahead and actually write out, because it should just be one sentence, your thesis statement. Um, and then for each one of the body paragraphs, again, doesn't have to be full sentences, but what is your topic sentence going to be about? Uh, Give me some notes about what evidence or support you're going to have for that topic sentence. Do the same thing for body paragraph 2, and the same for body paragraph 3. And then finally, for the conclusion, how are you going to restate your thesis statement? What are the general ways that you're going to summarize? And then do you have an idea, kind of like for your hook, do you have an idea for what you're going to do for your call to action? Um, so we don't need full sentences for almost any of these except for maybe the thesis statement, because you kind of have to write that as a full sentence to kind of see the order you're going to put it in. Um, but the big thing for you here, and I'll even write it here, this is an opinion. Please don't forget this is an opinion. Um, so make sure that it's, I believe or I feel, um, or this is the way it should be, anything, but you're not saying, dogs are animals. Okay, dogs are animals because that's a fact. Like they are animals. Dogs are the best animals. Now we have an opinion. So you don't want it to be a fact. You want it to be an opinion. Um, but again, this is your assignment for today. Um, so I want to give you enough time to work on that because I know some of you need to make up some of the assignments that we have going on. Um, Not everyone has caught up on all the assignments. So if you didn't do last week's after Wednesday, there was a quiz right here about the structure and organization of essays. 2 people did it, had some good grades. I was going to go over it today, but I still have 3 people that haven't taken it. I needed you to restate a thesis statement, and then I needed you to choose an essay topic. I already had Endong, I think. Uh, Soul. Didn't I say no to Soul? I feel like I said no to Soul. Yeah, so no Gumi and no Soul. So you can't do Gumi or Soul. So you'll have to pick a new one, Yujin. So, but for the other 2, I think it was Endong and Sungju. Yes. So, but other than that, does anyone have any questions?
Nope.
Okay.
Okay.
Question no.
Question no.
Hankyo. Yeah.
Hancho. Yeah.
Yeah. If you guys don't have
Yeah. If you
questions,
guys don't have
then you
questions,
are free
then
to go.
you are free to go.
Just make sure that you
Just
complete
make
the
sure that
outline,
you complete the outline,
and we'll be ready for
and we'll
class
be
out.
ready for class open.
All right. Bye.
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 See ya.
See ya.
Minkyu. Still here?